Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely dismantle the illusion of the AI creator to figure out where true human value actually lies right now. We are constantly bombarded with this narrative that artificial intelligence is this independent, highly creative entity just conjuring masterpieces out of thin air. But we're going to look past that polished interface today, diving all the way down into the literal silicon to find out what's really going on.
We are hurtling headfirst into the agent-to-agent economy. This is a massive paradigm shift where AI systems negotiate access, execute tasks, and generate media autonomously, completely without human intervention. But this forces us to ask a really profound question. When the machine inevitably hallucinates or makes a critical error in this automated network, who actually holds the liability?
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. The agent-to-agent economic. 2. The AI illusion. 3. Crossing the semiotic bridge. 4. Distortion versus protortion. And 5. The human orchestrator. Let's just jump right in.
Part 1. The agent-to-agent economy. Let's start by looking at how the very definition of being a creator has fundamentally shifted.
Our journey here is fascinating. Think back to the 18th century. We had the romantic author, the lone genius pulling brilliant original ideas out of thin air. Fast forward to 1967, and theorist Roland Barthes introduced the scripter, viewing the creator more as a vessel that remixes existing cultural texts. Now, in the 2020s, in this agent-to-agent economy, we are the algorithmic orchestrator. We aren't manually rendering every pixel or typing every single word anymore. Instead, we manage the overarching strategy, surrendering the mechanical brute force execution to the machine.
Moving to Part 2, the AI illusion. To really grasp your role as an algorithmic orchestrator, we have to strip away the magic of AI and confront the actual physics of the hardware.
Consider this staggering reality. 80 to 90% of AI compute cycles are just hardware-level approximations. They aren't exact math. When massive language models do their heavy lifting, they are fundamentally just guessing the nearest mathematical truth.
And this happens because AI leans heavily on the floating point unit, or FPU. Think of the FPU as the gambler. It throws darts at a board to give you an incredibly fast, highly educated guess. But true legal accountability? That requires the absolute, undeniable accuracy of the arithmetic logic unit, the ALU. Think of the ALU as the surveyor, where 1 + 1 is exactly 2, every single time without fail. Because of this underlying architecture, the AI is absolutely not an independent creator, it's simply a digital scripter. Think of it as a von Neumann Babelfish. It blindly maps one format, like your English text prompt, into another format, like Python code. And it does this entirely based on complex probabilistic guessing without truly comprehending a single word you just said.
And making matters even wilder is the tokenization bottleneck. This process violently crushes our flowing associative human thoughts into rigid, discrete chunks. For example, to an AI, the beautiful continuous concept of pi is arbitrarily fractured into the number 3, a decimal point, a 14, and a 159. It's literally just memorizing text sequences. It has zero understanding of context the way you and I do.
Which brings us to Part 3, crossing the semiotic bridge. If the machine is just a blind guessing translator, how in the world do we get it to do what we want with total accuracy? Well, we are trying to cross a massive divide. On one side, we have our human cognition, what we can call OS alpha. It's beautifully messy, intuitive, and entirely meaning-driven. On the exact opposite side, we have the ALU, the literal silicon hardware. It is cold, it is completely rigid, and it is utterly blind to meaning. It only registers physical electrical voltages.
The translator between these two completely alien worlds is the semiotic bridge. Structured, deterministic text, things like JSON or Python code, acts as this exact, literal divine script. It's the one and only way we map our nonlinear associative thoughts directly onto physical silicon. We are, quite literally, tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text.
It's a brisk, highly deterministic dance. You, the human pilot, originate the intent. You formalize it into strict text, and then the deterministic agent physically executes the sweat.
Part 4, distortion versus protortion. Bridging this gap isn't easy. It's an absolute battle of wills between what the probabilistic AI wants to guess and what you actually demand it to execute.
This is the crucial difference between distortion and protortion.
Algorithmic distortion is machine-driven chaos. It's the AI hallucinating or degrading your input. You simply cannot rely on an AI to self-correct. Instead, human value now lies entirely in your protortion. This is your proactive, painstaking effort. It's actively grabbing the steering wheel and flat out rejecting the random noise of the algorithm to steer the deterministic execution.
When the AI strays into a hallucination, you have to perform an agentic tort. This is a direct, manual, physical override. It requires the sweat of the brow, using performative language to actively prune the code and wrestle the scripter back into compliance. You have to edit the code yourself to aggressively bend the machine back towards your mandate.
Because if you don't take this active control, you become what scholar Madeleine Claire Elish brilliantly calls a moral crumple zone. Just like the front of a car is designed to crush on impact to protect the cabin, humans are increasingly being positioned to simply absorb the legal and societal impact when these highly complex algorithms inevitably crash.
And that leads us to our final section, Part 5, the Human Orchestrator. This resolves exactly what it means to be a sovereign creator in the modern digital economy.
As philosopher Hannah Arendt argued, true creation requires praxis, an active engagement completely tied to lived biological experience. Machines do not have an inner self. They don't feel joy or grief, and they face zero biological friction. Because they entirely lack this fundamental lived reality, true authorship will always remain a distinctly human endeavor.
You must act as the theological steward of the hardware, the sweat of the brow. Your active declarative text and your willingness to manually prune the code is the absolute only path to bit-perfect fidelity. You provide the overarching strategy, the emotional resonance, and the moral constraints that the machine completely lacks.
As we move deeper and deeper into the agent-to-agent economy, the slick interfaces are going to try to hide this reality from you. But remember, the machine is simply a deterministic brush waiting for instructions. So the choice is entirely yours. Will you fiercely command the semiotic bridge and orchestrate the physics? Or will you blindly trust the algorithm and become a casualty of probabilistic noise? Think about that next time you hit generate. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the systems that run our world.